it was tried for the first time about 1,000 years ago. And a detective novel writer in my town of Guildford in England, he tried it. And he wrote many detective stories, but one book was called The Four Gospels in one story, and he put it together. But it makes a mess. Because we need four Gospels to look at Jesus from four different angles. You get a fuller picture of someone when you get a different aspect of their character and their activity. Broadly speaking, Matthew presents Jesus as King of the Jews. Mark presents Jesus as Son of Man. Luke presents Jesus as Savior of the world. And John presents Jesus as Son of God. And that gives you a lovely total picture of Jesus in at least four of his functions. But there's more to it than that. Matthew, Mark, and Luke are called the synoptic gospels because synoptic means sun, together, optic, look. And synoptic gospels look at Jesus from a similar point of view. And they look at Jesus from the outside, whereas John's gospel looks at Jesus from the inside. That's the main reason why it's so different. And now you can read the four Gospels in a different way, but I'm going to say more. Of the four Gospels, two are written for unbelievers, and two are written for believers. And the two written for believers, one is written for young believers, new believers, and the other is written for old believers, mature believers. Now, do you know which? You can give the wrong gospel to an unbeliever. Well, now, which two are written for unbelievers? Mark and Luke. And Mark tells them what Jesus did, and Luke tells them, in addition to Mark, what Jesus said. And then finally, John came along and talked about what Jesus was. When a great person dies, interest in them goes through three phases. The first, the obituary notice, will simply list what the person did. And then people begin to be interested in what they said, and their speeches and letters get published. And then the third phase is when people write a book really getting into the guy and telling us from the inside what he was. And you get this progression in the four Gospels. Mark told us what God did. Matthew and Luke added in what Jesus said. And then John tells us what Jesus was. The mature look at Jesus that we have in the Gospel of John was written last. Now, Mark and Luke are written for unbelievers. Matthew is written for new believers. And John is written for old believers. And the same parable in two different Gospels carry a different message. Take the parable of the lost sheep. It occurs in Matthew and Luke. But in Luke, the lost sheep is a lost unbeliever who needs to be found. But in Matthew, the lost sheep is a lost believer who needs to be brought back. In Luke, the parable of the great feast is for unbelievers to be invited to come and take their place at the feast. But in Matthew, the emphasis is on the man who didn't change his clothes and was thrown out of the feast at the end. For many are called, but few are chosen at the end. So you see, even the same parable of Jesus, which he obviously told on more than one occasion, has a different message because of the book books in which they occur, which are aimed at different people. And Matthew, of course, was not only aimed at new believers, but new Jewish believers, and has a particular approach for them. So 4 Gospels, all different, and you will only understand what is in each Gospel when you know who it was written for and why it was written. And then that Gospel will have more meaning for you.